For 40 years, Iran built something that no other country in the region had. They weren't planes, they weren't aircraft carriers. I'm talking about missiles, thousands of them, buried hundreds of meters deep, spread across dozens of secret complexes throughout Iranian territory. It was the gamble of an entire regime, the guarantee that no enemy would attack without paying an unacceptable price. On February 28th, 2026, this arsenal was put to the test for the first time. And in just 31 days, it was annihilated. But after all, how did this happen? How did the United States and Israel destroy in 1 month what took 4 decades to build? The answer, well, it's not what most people imagine. It wasn't just military power or technology, it was something deeper. And if you look closer, I'd say it's scary. Let's start from the beginning. Iran's missile program was born from a wound. During the war against Iraq in the 1980s, the country suffered devastating bombings and realized it would never be able to compete in the air. Decades of sanctions blocked access to modern warplanes. So the regime made a decision that would shape the next 4 decades. If we can't have the best air force, let's build the largest missile force in the world. And that's exactly what they did. At the height of the program, Iran had more than 3,000 ballistic missiles. After losing hundreds in the June 2025 war, the regime quickly rebuilt its arsenal and reached about 2,500 missiles by early 2026. In addition to that, there were 300 to 400 mobile launchers spread throughout the country, as well as factories that produced hundreds of new missiles per month. It was by far the largest missile arsenal in the Middle East. But it wasn't just the quantity that was frightening, it was the quality. One of these missiles, the K-Bar Shekan, whose name means fortress breaker, could reach targets up to 1,450 kilometers away. With accuracy, the Iranian regime claimed could reach within meters of the target. And it did this while camouflaged. It was transported on top of an ordinary-looking vehicle, almost impossible to distinguish from a civilian truck in satellite images. The Khorramshahr 4, on the other hand, carried a warhead of up to 1.8 tons and, in its submunition version, covered an area with an 8-kilometer radius, enough to destroy an entire neighborhood. And the Fatah, which the Iranian regime called hypersonic, flew, according to Iranian authorities, at 15 times the speed of sound and performed maneuvers in the final moments of flight, making interception almost impossible. The Western world took this arsenal seriously, and it had good reasons for that. But there was a problem that Iran took decades to realize, and that its enemies realized much earlier. To protect all of this, Iran built what became known as the missile cities. Think of huge underground military bases carved into mountains in the interior of the country. Tunnels up to 10 meters high, tall enough for a 3-story building to pass through. Internal tracks to move the missiles from one place to another. Rotating launch platforms. And all of this buried hundreds of meters deep in solid rock. It was impressive engineering, billions of dollars invested, decades of work. But there was a problem. Can you imagine what it is? Iran had powerful missiles, protected bases, impenetrable tunnels. What could be wrong? The answer is simple. So simple, it's scary. The missiles were safe inside, but to launch, they had to come out. And the moment they came out of the tunnels, they were exposed. What Iran didn't know was that while it was building its missile cities, the United States and Israel were already mapping each one of them. Every tunnel entrance, every launcher, every location. Iran spent 40 years building the perfect weapon, and without realizing it, it built the perfect target. And when the day came to use all of that, the United States already had the list ready. On February 28, 2026, when Operation Epic Fury was authorized, it wasn't a reconnaissance operation. It was an operation to carry it out. And it started with something that sums up better than any statistic what the United States is capable of doing. 4 B-2 Spirit bombers took off from a base in the state of Missouri in the center of the United States. Not from the Middle East, not from a forward base in Europe. From Missouri, almost 10,000 kilometers from Iran. The B-2 is the most expensive airplane ever built. Each one costs more than $2 billion. It is invisible to radar. It flies at altitudes that most fighter jets can't reach. And it carries inside it precision bombs weighing 900 kilograms, guided by satellites capable of hitting a target kilometers away with a margin of error of just a few meters. These 4 planes flew for hours over the Atlantic. They crossed Europe, they crossed the Mediterranean, they entered Middle Eastern airspace. They dropped their bombs on Iran. And then they turned to head back home. But there was a storm in Missouri. So they landed in Texas. An aviation enthusiast who was tracking military flights filmed the 4 B-2 Spirits landing one after another at Dyess Air Force Base in Texas. He posted it on social media. The video went viral, and do you know what's even stranger? There was no official statement, no press conference. Just 4 of the world's deadliest planes landing at an American airport, as if they were coming back from any ordinary trip. After having crossed half the planet to destroy underground bunkers, hundreds of meters deep in solid rock, and coming back home in one piece. This is what the United States is capable of, and that's exactly what Iran faced. But the B-2s were just the beginning. In the following days, the destruction of the Iranian arsenal was systematic and relentless. It happened on 3 fronts at the same time. The first was to eliminate the Iranian air defenses, that is, all the systems Iran used to shoot down enemy planes. Without that protection in the sky, everything below was exposed. Israeli drones, which work like suicide missiles, dove onto radars and defense batteries. American electronic jamming systems silenced communications, and hacker attacks brought Iran's internet down to less than 4% of its normal capacity in 60 hours. In less than a day, the United States and Israel controlled the skies over Iran. More than 100 air defense systems were destroyed. Not a single American or Israeli fighter jet was shot down in combat. The second front was the hunt for missile launchers. And it was here that technology changed everything. 2 types of drones were the main players in this hunt. The first was the Israeli Hermes 900 named Kochav, which means star in Hebrew, with a wingspan of 15 meters and the ability to fly. For up to 40 hours without landing, it patrolled the Iranian sky non-stop. What made it special wasn't its size, it was what it carried inside. Infrared cameras, high-resolution radar, and hyperspectral sensors. Everything processed in real time by artificial intelligence. The system automatically fused this information and flagged any suspicious vehicle hidden in the terrain. When a missile launcher emerged from a tunnel, the Hermes 900 was already watching it. The second was the American MQ-9 Reaper, the most famous attack drone in the world, capable of carrying up to 8 Hellfire missiles and staying in the air for more than 24 hours. CENTCOM, the U.S. Central Command, was responsible for all United States military operations in the Middle East. A video even circulated on social media showing the exact moment when an American MQ-9 Reaper drone fired a Hellfire missile and destroyed a ballistic missile launcher that was preparing for launch. A perfect hunt, recorded and published on social media. The division of labor was precise. The Hermes 900 would find the targets and mark them. The Reaper would destroy them. When no Reaper was available, the Hermes itself would call in the nearby Israeli fighter jets. The chain from target identification to firing took minutes, sometimes seconds. When the tunnel entrances were bombed, Iran would send in tractors to try to reopen them. CENTCOM released videos showing these tractors being destroyed as soon as they appeared. It was a never-ending cycle. For the deeper facilities, the Americans used that 13-ton bomb. The technique was as simple as it was brutal. Dropping several of them at the same entry point, one after another, deepening the hole with each impact. The analysis of 32 Iranian bases showed that all of them had been hit. 77% of the identified tunnel entrances were bombed, and the third front was to destroy the factories, not just the existing missiles, but also the capacity to produce new ones. 2/3 of the missile and drone production facilities were damaged or destroyed. And at sea, dozens of Iranian military ships were destroyed in the first weeks, with the total rising to more than 150 vessels over the course of the conflict. An American submarine torpedoed and sank an Iranian ship. The first sinking of an enemy ship by an American submarine in combat since 1945. And the result of everything we've seen so far, you can see in the numbers. On the first day, Iran launched 480 ballistic missiles, a historic record. By the fourth day, that number had dropped to 42. By the 10th day, fewer than 40. By the 22nd day, there were so few that you could count them on one hand. In 10 days, launch capacity dropped by 92%. 70% of the launcher vehicles were destroyed. More than 700 targets related to the missile program were eliminated. An Israeli officer summed up what happened in one sentence. At this moment, the Iranian regime is unable to produce missiles. Now, without the ability to produce, with no launchers to fire, the regime that threatened the Middle East for decades with the largest missile arsenal in the region was left in just 1 month unable to respond. The 40-year gamble had failed. What was left? Well, the Strait of Hormuz, but that's a topic for the next video. As you can see, Iran didn't lose because it lacked missiles. It didn't lose because it lacked money or technology. It lost because its secrets were stolen over decades. And the regime didn't know. Every tunnel mapped, every routine monitored, every location recorded. When the war started, the United States and Israel weren't just learning about Iran. They were carrying out a plan that had existed for a long time. In the era we live in, it's not the size of the arsenal that decides who wins. It's who knows the enemy better. Iran bet on concrete and depth. The United States bet on information and intelligence, and in 31 days it became very clear which of the two bets won. Now I want to know your opinion. The deadline the United States gave Iran to accept an agreement expires on April 6th. Do you believe Iran will accept? Or will the negotiations break down? Leave your opinion in the comments. If this video helped you better understand what's happening, share it with someone who follows geopolitics. And if you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe now. See you next time.